This was a very Macronesque speech, wasn't it? It went on for well over 2 hours, with questions included. And it involved concrete policy proposals, kind of mixed in with an ode to the art of being French, for example. What did you make of it?
Yes, in a sense, it was what Macron does best. It was a grand oral. It was a big oral examination, and Macron rises to this. He doesn't actually like the press conference format, and he has an uneasy relationship of distrust with the media, but in a sense, it was forced upon him. But this is actually the last thing Macron wanted to be doing this evening, pledging a whole catalogue of measures imposed upon him. And this on top of 10 billion euros already pledged back in December to try to defuse the growing crisis then. And I think that's really the problem for Macron. Partial concessions didn't work to quell the unrest before, so will these more extensive measures work now?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Has he done enough in terms of policies, these tax cuts for the middle classes, a promise not to close hospitals and schools during his mandate? You know, will that be enough? Did he get the tone right, first of all? And will this be enough to quell those protests?
I think he probably got the tone as right as he could and mixed in generalities and quite a lot of quite abstruse, almost philosophical thoughts on being French, as you've suggested, with some concrete measures. This is billed as a response to the Gilets jaunes. But Macron isn't really talking to the Gilets jaunes, and certainly not to the ultras who are still turning out every weekend and bringing havoc to some city centres. These people will never be satisfied with anything Macron says short of, I resign. The people he's really talking to are the 50% or so of the population who have continued to support the Gilets jaunes despite all the disruption and violence. Macron is trying to get through to them with the message, I've listened and now I'm bringing solutions. But he starts from a very weak position with an Ipsos poll already alluded to only yesterday showing 76% of people believing the great national debate was a pointless exercise and 86% convinced it will do nothing to improve their personal situation. Turning around that kind of scepticism looks a bit like Mission Impossible.
And we'll get an even better idea next month as to whether or not the French believe in Emmanuel Macron's transformation of the country, as he calls it, when we get the European elections. Do you think that could deal a big blow to the president?
The timing of all of this is critical, with Macron's first big electoral test coming, as you say, in European elections next month. And what we see is Macron's party neck and neck with Le Pen's. In other words, the same contest from the presidential runoff being played out again. This wasn't meant to happen. Le Pen was meant to be down and out after her presidential defeat by Macron, but she and her party have surged back and could now come first next month, just as they did in 2014. This would be a disaster for Macron and for his ambition to embody a new progressive, centrist, pro-Europeanist force against radical populism. With Angela Merkel now eclipsed, and with right-wing Eurosceptic populists much stronger across the EU than they were when Macron came to office, the horizons have clouded. If he thinks things are bad now, they could look a whole lot worse if his governing party is pushed into second place by Le Pen's next month.